Back in 2017, after struggling with yo-yo diets for more than 25 years, I did it. After 2 pregnancies, I lost a combined 155 pounds, which took me to my ultimate goal weight of 135. That's a weight that I hadn't seen since high school. But even after my geriatric pregnancy, because yes, they refer to any pregnancy after age 35 as geriatric, I was strutting around in size 6 jeans, which I never even dreamed of. Mostly because after struggling to squeeze into a size 12 for most of my life, I never thought it was possible. But here I was, reveling in my newfound success. And not only was I celebrating losing a whole lot of weight, but I won so many other hard-fought victories, like getting rid of the cystic acne I suffered from for decades. And after practically living in the medication aisle at Walgreens for symptoms like heartburn, painful gas, and anxiety, it was all gone. Plus, the energy I had from my keto and intermittent fasting lifestyle was off the charts. Well, at least until it wasn't. And that's where this video comes in. Because somewhere mid 2018, all of those victories I worked so hard for came crashing down. All of the energy I had was suddenly a thing of the past. And not only was it a thing of the past, but now I was flat out exhausted. But I couldn't understand where this crash came from since I was still living the same healthy lifestyle that helped me reach my goals. I still cut out most carbs and I still fasted 16 to 20 hours most days. So why all of a sudden was I desperate for a nap before noon? And why was I regaining all of the weight that I worked so hard to lose? After a few years of struggling, plus a whole lot of research, I figured out that I was dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome. But how did I get here? This was a problem that kept me up at night. Although at the time, pretty much any problem kept me up because I just wasn't sleeping that well. And that's when it hit me. No wonder I was exhausted all day. I was barely racking up a solid 3 or 4 hours of sleep each night, even after spending 8 hours in bed. Even though I was exhausted by my kids' bedtime routine around 8, sleeping through the night wasn't easy. While most nights I could always fall asleep, staying asleep was a problem. Most nights I'd find myself tossing and turning by 2 or 3, and I couldn't get back to sleep no matter what I tried. And trust me, I tried it all. When I learned about counting backwards from 100 by multiples of 3, I did that. But that did nothing. So I moved up to 500, and while that helped every once in a while, most nights I'd restart at 500 at least 3 or 4 times before giving up completely. Turning off the TV, sleeping in a dark, cool room, putting my cell phone away, and even using earplugs at night, none of these tricks helped my desperate need for more sleep. Then I came across a podcast with Dr. Huberman, and this podcast changed my life since his tips for improving sleep were spot on. His first tip for better sleep actually starts in the morning. He recommends staring at the sun first thing for 3 to 5 minutes. The reason this helps is that staring at the sun helps spike cortisol at the right time of day, which sets your circadian clock up for better sleep. Even though something as simple as 3 to 5 minutes of early sunlight viewing didn't seem like it would do much, the truth is, following this routine was a huge win when it came to better sleep. His next tip was to supplement my way to better sleep. Since Dr. Huberman has 2 entire podcasts dedicated to sleep, I do recommend checking those out. But one of the tips from his series that helped me was some of the supplements that he suggested. While I was able to improve my sleep with only magnesium threonate, there are other recommendations he provides if you need a little bit more help. And then, of course, there are all of those other tips that everyone talks about, like cutting off caffeine at least 9 hours before bed, keeping your room dark and cool, and keeping earplugs handy in case you need them. While getting better sleep was a huge win in reducing chronic fatigue, there are other steps that I had to take to get back to normal. And one of those steps I just hinted at, which is cutting back on caffeine. One of the reasons I was always fatigued is my adrenals were worn out. While maybe perhaps taking care of 2 demanding toddlers, while keeping up with household chores, while running a business that included fat loss challenges, writing 5 books, plus weekly podcasts and YouTube episodes didn't help with chronic stress, neither did chugging caffeine to keep up with it all. And I'm not even a coffee drinker. But since I was living this busy life where there was always something that had to be done, I became a coffee drinker. And I didn't think drinking coffee to keep up with life was really a problem. At least until I realized that I could drink an entire grande cold brew at 11 only to be fast asleep on the couch 30 minutes later. And that's when I knew overdoing caffeine wasn't doing me any favors. While many experts recommend cutting out caffeine completely when overtaxed adrenals are an issue, I still needed my fix for early morning workouts. So even though I kept in my initial caffeine boost in the morning, I cut out all caffeine for the rest of the day. And even though I indulge in a mid-afternoon pick-me-up these days, I had to cut out most caffeine for a few years in order to repair my adrenals. Since I desperately missed my midday energy boost, I ended up replacing my midday coffee with a little bit of green tea. While green tea does have a small amount of caffeine, I was able to get the same pick-me-up with a fraction of the caffeine found in my favorite iced coffee. This led me to the third step I took to get rid of chronic fatigue, and that was to quit all stressful diets. As a lifelong dieter, it seems like I'm always looking to get rid of the next 10 pounds. Even after hitting my goal weight with keto and fasting, I kept at it since everyone talked about keto and fasting as a lifestyle and not a diet. Plus, even after losing 100 pounds and gracing the pages of People magazine in a bikini, which yikes, because I'd never even worn a two-piece in public before, but now here I am flaunting all of my goodies for 7 million readers. But I digress. Even after hitting this huge milestone, I wanted more. I still wanted to firm up this area right here, and I wanted to tweak that part right there. And in all honesty, what woman doesn't constantly want more when it comes to weight loss? So I kept carbs low and fasting times high. Little did I know the amount of stress this was causing. And with a whole lot of stress comes a whole lot of fatigue. But who knew continuing the same lifestyle that helped me lose 100 pounds was contributing to chronic fatigue? Because everyone in the keto and fasting circles swear that this lifestyle is the best thing that you can do for your health. And I thought that too, at least until I saw my health deteriorate right before my eyes. And I'm not saying that regaining 50 pounds or slipping into a few years of chronic fatigue is because of keto and intermittent fasting. After all, I gained a ton of health benefits after ketoing and fasting for more than half of a decade. But I am saying that I followed keto and intermittent fasting too long for the lifestyle that I was living. As a busy mom slash business owner who had changing hormones and goals that actually required carbs, plus more frequent meals, adding even more diet stressors to my stressful life was just too much. But the thing is, I never realized just how much stress these health interventions were causing until I let them go. Once I settled into eating more carbs more often, plus just eating more often, I finally felt good enough to get back to a more reasonable weight loss plan. These days, I don't feel deprived or stressed since I follow a flexible diet that fuels my body with the right foods at the right times. So while keto and intermittent fasting are great health interventions for so many, I figured out that they weren't plans that were right for me forever, since they were actually contributing to chronic fatigue. And I'm so happy I learned this lesson since I haven't dealt with chronic fatigue for more than 18 months. Plus, I'm back to a healthy weight that's been really easy to maintain. Of course, if you want to learn some of the easy habits I followed to drop those 40 pounds with a flexible dieting strategy, check out this video next.